The top 13 evil cars.
Freddy's school bus. At the beginning of A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, our hero is having a nightmare in which he's picked up for school by Freddy! Oh no! Freddy turns the bus into a monster and drives it off-road before proceeding to slash everyone inside to death. Although the bus doesn't really have anything else to do with the movie after this point, it's probably the best part of the whole movie. The bus itself is an International Harvester Lodestar. The car from Wheels of Terror. The car from Wheels of Terror is a 1974 Dodge Charger that's been customized a little bit. It's unclear whether or not this car is meant to be supernatural. It certainly seems to teleport around a lot, and we never see the driver, and the only person to get in the car and get out alive only says that, "I saw it." Yeah, not "I saw him." It. So, who knows what they were going for here? Aside from its aforementioned teleporting ability, the car is not really any faster, better handling, or harder to destroy than any other 1974 Dodge Charger would be. In fact, the poor thing can't outrun a school bus! Give me a break! Elvira's Thunderbird. Elvira's Thunderbird is either a 58 or a 59, sources vary, and Cassandra Peterson apparently actually owns it in real life. Anyway, the Thunderbird is not supernatural in and of itself, and in her first movie at least, neither is Elvira, until the very end when she discovers she's a witch and unlocks her powers. Presumably after that, the Thunderbird takes on a life of its own as her familiar of sorts. Anyway, it's mostly on this list because Elvira is such a horror icon in her own right, and the car does look really cool, if nothing else. The Hearse. The Hearse is a 1952 Packard funeral coach used by members of a satanic cult to run people they don't like off the road. The Hearse isn't really supernatural or special in any way by itself, but it warrants a mention here anyway just because it looks so cool. At least I assume it does. The movie is rather poorly lit, so all you can really see is the chrome grille slithering around in the darkness. I don't know if the effect was intentional or not, but that makes this car a lot creepier than it had any right to be. The Munsters Coach. This is one of the more interesting cars on this list in real-life terms because it was a complete custom. It is not based on any particular car, except that it used body panels from a few junked Model Ts customizer George Barris had laying around. The frame is custom-made, the radiator is custom-made, the suspension is custom. Everything on this car is a one-off. The car from The Car. The main antagonist of this 1977 movie is a 1971 Lincoln Continental Mark III that has been customized by the devil himself. Yes, that's right. It's literally the devil's hot rod. What does the devil do with a hot rod, you might ask? Why, he does things like run down innocent children, run over honest cops. However, the devil doesn't run over people who beat their wives. Now, the car may be even more powerful than Christine because it has supernatural speed, supernatural maneuverability, and it is indestructible. Instead of having a healing factor like Christine, the car simply can't be damaged in the first place. Shoot at it, you'll miss. Try to run it off the road, your car will explode. Bury it under tons of rock, it'll just reappear somewhere else and continue its reign of terror. There is no stopping the car. I mean, it is the devil's hot rod after all. Stuntman Mike's Cars from Death Proof. Death Proof is about a guy named Stuntman Mike who modifies cars to be death-proof, which is to say, no matter how bad he wrecks, he won't be hurt. His passengers, on the other hand, aren't so lucky. In fact, this is how he goes on a serial murder spree, by wrecking his death-proof cars, killing his passengers, and surviving himself. Mike drives two cars in the movie, a 1971 Chevy Nova and a 1970-71 Dodge Charger that has been modified to be a triple homage. It is painted to look like the car from Bullitt, has grille and rear end modifications like the General Lee from the Dukes of Hazzard, and has the same license plate as the Dodge Charger from Dirty Mary Crazy Larry. The cars may not be supernatural or really evil, but their driver certainly is. One of the most despicable characters in recent cinema. The Turbo Interceptor from The Wraith. In real life, the car was a Dodge M4S Turbo Interceptor, a concept car that was never intended to reach production, powered by a turbocharged four-cylinder engine capable of reaching 195 miles an hour. The cars in the movie, however, were actually VW Beetles with fiberglass bodies on them. In fact, in a couple of scenes, you can actually see the VW suspension if you look closely enough. However, whatever they were in real life, it doesn't take away from how cool this car was in the movie. The plot concerns a young man who is murdered by a gang, and then he comes back from hell, or whatever, with this awesome car that he uses to run them off the road to their deaths. The Turbo Interceptor is another contender for the most powerful vehicle on this list, because not only is it completely supernatural, it also cannot be destroyed by any means. It can be damaged, sure enough, and it can even be blown up, but it just comes back even more powerful every time. Ash's Oldsmobile from the Evil Dead series. This car isn't really the monster, or evil at all. In fact, it's just a car that happens to be owned by the protagonist. It doesn't do a whole lot in the first two movies, but in Evil Dead 3 Army of Darkness, Ash is sent back in time to the Middle Ages and converts his car into a battle machine with a spinning blade on the front, armor, and gun portals so that he can shotgun deadites from the safety of his driver's seat. It's more iconic than anything else. The Green Goblin truck from Maximum Overdrive. From what I've been able to find out, the Green Goblin truck is a 1979 Western Star 4800 equipped with a Detroit Diesel 12V71, which has, for some reason, the giant fiberglass head of Spider-Man's nemesis, the Green Goblin, stuck on the front of it. Hey, whatever, man. This truck, along with apparently every other vehicle in the world, except those vehicles driven by our heroes, comes to life one night because of an alien invasion or something. And anyway, this is the primary antagonist of our heroes during the movie, and it also has by far the largest body count. It is disappointingly taken out rather easily with a mere missile launcher. Oh well. Now we have the truck from Duel. Duel was a TV movie from 1971, directed by a young guy named Steven Spielberg. I feel confident saying that we'll hear great things about him in the future. The truck was a 1961 Peterbilt 351, towing a vintage fuel tanker from 1946. That particular model of truck was chosen because Spielberg thought it looked like a living creature, and you know what? It really does. We barely see the driver of the truck. Actually, we only ever see his hands on the steering wheel in one brief shot, and his boots while he's walking around kicking the tires. So it really seems more like the truck itself is a monster, and the driver is merely its caretaker. At least that's what I like to think. The truck doesn't really possess any supernatural qualities, although it is souped up and is much faster than any big rig has any right to be, especially when it's chasing around a pitiful little Plymouth Valiant. The Creeper's truck from Jeepers Creepers. While this is another vehicle that isn't supernatural in nature, its driver certainly is. The Creeper is some sort of monster, demon, or whatever, who kidnaps young boys and takes their body parts to keep itself going over the years. The Creeper's primary mode of transportation, when he's not flying, that is a 1941 Chevrolet cab-over engine delivery truck. The Creeper has done some modifications on the truck, equipping it with a cow catcher to push cars off the road, and the engine is quite souped up as well. In fact, while he's chasing our heroes down the road, you hear what sounds like twin turbochargers. Christine, from the 1983 film of the same name, is a 58 Plymouth Fury that's haunted by the ghost of its previous owner, at least in the book. In the movie, it's more like it's cursed because of accidents on the assembly line. Either way, the result is the same. Christine takes on a life of her own and becomes jealously possessive of her new owner. Over the course of the film, Christine displays supernatural speed, maneuverability, and has the car equivalent of a Wolverine healing factor, which means that it's basically impossible to destroy her. At one point, she even sets herself on fire before going off chasing after a bad guy, just to drive home how unstoppable she is, I guess.